Had I
or
known,
franchising?
To a crystal ball that Pickens was going to have the year he's had, then it wouldn't have been so late in the time that you'd heard about a trade. Had I known he was going to have that kind of year. Because I can't say it enough factually. If we don't have that, we have no flexibility to do things like that going forward. It had everything to do with the trade.
How about them Cowboys? Angry Cowboys fan. Born to battle. Star on our chest means we never sell. America's team through thick and thin. When the star shines bright, that's when we win. Angry Cowboys fan.
What's going on, Cowboys Nation and angry Cowboys fans around the world? Y'all know who it is. It's your man, the Angry Cowboys fan, and it's official, Cowboys Nation. It is the start of the 2026 NFL season for our Dallas Cowboys. The reason why I say that has to do everything with the firing of Matt Eberflus, the exit interviews with each player on the Dallas Cowboys, not to mention we get to hear from Jerry, Steven, and Brian Schottenheimer about the plans for the 2026 Dallas Cowboys team in this season-ending press conference. During the press conference, they spoke about trying to extend George Pickens. They spoke about Jadeveon Clowney being a target for an extension, how Javonte Williams was a high priority person on their list for an extension. Nevertheless, there was a lot to choose from, but I narrowed it down to just 3 clips. So we're going to take a listen to the 3 clips that I got for y'all, and y'all know what we're going to do. We're going to come back and unpack this raw and uncut. So, Angry Cowboys fans, let's take a listen to a few clips from Jerry, Steven, and Shotty as they turn the page on this chapter of the Dallas Cowboys to start fresh for the next one.
Are you going to support Pickens long term?
Again, it put us in the position to have the flexibility. Had we not had the room let me be real clear, had we not had the room that we now have because of the Parsons trade, there was no flexibility and not even an option to sign George Pickens. So I can be emphatic. Now, whether we sign him or not, if that's your question, whether we sign him or not, if one thing the explanation shows you is how much you have to keep your mind on where you are under the cap, because it will get you inflexible. And so to the answer to your question, when we make a decision around here, we have to decide exactly, do we have the room, and what does it do to your flexibility under the cap going forward? You have to do that every time.
I think the other thing, which I would add too, we gave up a 3rd-round pick to have a chance to have a top number 2 receiver, which we were hoping to get in the draft maybe, but didn't. And the thought process is when you give a 3, and let's say we couldn't have signed him back, then yes, it'd still have been a success because we'd have had a great year this year, and you would get a 3rd-round pick probably back from a compensatory standpoint. So that was our thought process on signing a guy with 1 year left for a 3rd-round pick, knowing, and it happens around the league, we're not the only ones who think like that, but then you get your 3rd back when he signs somewhere else for a lot of money. If we couldn't have signed him.
Yeah. Had I
or
known,
franchising.
Yeah.
If we couldn't have signed him or franchise tagged him. You know, Stephen Jones had to throw that in at the end of that whole spiel. And one thing, I wish they would just stop banging on the damn table. Every time you bang on the table, that takes away from your mic, Jerry and Stephen Jones. Y'all should know this doing how many press conferences y'all do. But anyway, Nick Harris asked a great question about the intentions of the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry and Stephen Jones, extending George Pickens. And I'm going to keep it a buck with you, Cowboys Nation. Jerry Jones in this whole interview quickly turned the conversation over to Dak Prescott and his contract. Why does that sound like Jerry Jones is setting up the fall guy if the Dallas Cowboys are unable to sign George Pickens? Putting it out there in the air, Cowboys Nation, pretty much telling Dak Prescott, hey, Dak, if you want George Pickens, we may have to do things a little bit differently in your pay. Well, we're going to speak about this during the Raw and Uncut portion, so make sure you stick around for that. But in the second clip, Garrett Padell from CBS Sports asked Jerry Jones if he would speak to George Pickens directly or if he would speak to David Mulugeta directly, seeing that Jerry didn't do that with Micah Parsons. So let's go ahead and take a listen to that so we can come back and talk about it. Let's go ahead and roll that second clip.
Sports, Jerry, Stephen, a lot was made about your direct negotiations with Micah. How do you plan to approach with George? Do you plan to talk to him directly, change the approach, and talk to David Mulugeta, or how do you plan to approach Pickens negotiations this year?
Well, I don't even think about it because I don't buy into or agree with the characterization of the negotiation you're referring to by anybody. And I don't agree. And I know they don't know because they can't get inside my head, for one. So, but I will tell you the characterizations of a lot of the way that I handle the Micah Parsons negotiation is so backwards from where it actually came down. It's unbelievable. And they certainly didn't realize ever that there was always, from the get-go, a concern about going forward with that much invested, with all the things you have to think about, availability, allocation of that much money. By the way, everybody in this business has to think about how much allocation. And when you allocate, you better start thinking about availability too, because that's a big criteria there on are they going to be on the field to basically get what you got. That's a big deal. And so some places it's unavoidable at quarterback. It's unavoidable there. But other places, you've got some choices, and it's either or.
Jerry Jones actually said it's unavoidable in the quarterback position. So this is why Dak Prescott got his record-breaking contract from Jerry Jones. It's because you can't treat Dak Prescott like you did Micah Parsons and then just get rid of him and expect the best at the quarterback position. And another thing, Cowboys Nation, I cannot stand the wet mouth sounds from Jerry Jones. Every time he speaks, Cowboys Nation, it gets on my damn nerves. It rubs me the wrong way. All you're hearing there is like, God, I get tired of it. But anyway, I don't know who Jerry was trying to convince, us or himself. All I gotta say is that he better not screw up the negotiations with George Pickens. He has a prime opportunity to have a little bit of continuity within the side of the ball that produced more often than not last year. Continuity in the wide receiver room. Continuity with the quarterback of the team and his receivers. But this makes me refer back to the first clip that if Dak Prescott wants to keep George Pickens, Jerry Jones is going to look for Dak Prescott to sacrifice some of his money to do so. Now let's go ahead and get into the third clip so we can come back and unpack this Raw and Uncut.
Kevin Sherrington, Dallas Morning. Stephen, you talked about Javonte Williams and George Pickens being priorities to re-sign, but you already have made a significant investment in the offense. That's a lot of your salary cap, and then also invested in those 3 defensive tackles. How are you going to have enough money left to fix what's the matter with the defense?
Yeah, we have to be efficient. It starts, as we've talked about, with the draft. I think someone mentioned we had a draft one year where we picked, the first 6, 7 picks were defensive players. And obviously that's a route to go as well. But we will also be able to look at guys, priorities, Clowney. Priorities, if we see the right deal, which is historically how we've been in free agency, especially as you've mentioned, we've got a lot of big money tied up in, 7 or 8 players. But, part of making a great football team is having the complementary pieces as well. And I think that's where we struggled some this year. Our complementary pieces, weren't as good as we might need. And whether that was because we weren't getting them in the right position, from a strategic standpoint, or whether it's just lack of skill. I mean, all those are things that we're going to evaluate. Obviously, that's why we're in the market for a defensive coordinator right now. That's part of it.
No, Stephen Jones, it doesn't start with the draft. It starts with your selection at the defensive coordinator position. It starts today. It continues when the legal tampering window opens. But that's a good question. That's the number one question that a lot of us have. How will the Dallas Cowboys afford to keep the offense in place while overhauling the defense properly? That's going to be a pretty impressive balancing act. But y'all ready for this raw and uncut? Y'all ready? Let's get it. Get ready for the Angry Cowboys fans, raw and uncut.
Being keeping it real, they keep it real, that's real.
You know, Cowboys Nation, I had to sit on this interview and not give my instant reaction to it. There was a lot to unpack in this interview and things that didn't just stick out in plain sight. So I took my time and I watched this exit interview about 4 times to see what nuggets I could get from Jerry, Steven, and Brian Schottenheimer. But I'm going to keep it a buck, Cowboys Nation. I didn't like what I heard when they spoke about the George Pickens contract negotiation. As y'all are quite aware, Cowboys Nation, I am completely against using the franchise tag when it comes to keeping George Pickens on this team. If they invoke the franchise tag, but then they're able to come to an extension a little bit down the road, then I'm cool with it. But don't have this young man going out on the field in 2026 on a 1-year prove-it deal, Jerry Jones. Pickens has proven himself a complete asset for this Dallas Cowboys offense and a reliable target for Dak Prescott. It would be criminal to use the franchise tag in this case. But wasn't it ironic that when Jerry Jones was asked about extending George Pickens, that he went on a tirade about Dak Prescott and signing him to a record-breaking contract? This, Cowboys Nation, is setting up the person to be the blame if they can't come to terms with George Pickens. Shoot, Stephen Jones even let the cat out of the bag when he said they would be receiving a 3rd-round compensatory pick if George Pickens didn't re-sign with the Dallas Cowboys. Y'all know what that means, right, Cowboys Nation? Well, due to Pickens' performance this year, if the Dallas Cowboys don't extend him and he finds another team that will extend him, the Dallas Cowboys will not fill his spot so they can gain a compensatory pick for the 2027 draft. One reason that they've been propping up Ryan Flournoy so he could potentially be that wide receiver 2 to CeeDee Lamb if something goes amiss in the George Pickens contract negotiation. Now, this is how Jerry Jones has done things before, Cowboys Nation. Let's not get that twisted. I know we've seen a bit of change in the way that Jerry and Steven went about things this past year, but it's hard to just put all my faith in Jerry and Steven Jones doing what needs to be done in order to get this team to where it needs to be. This is why the pick at the defensive coordinator position is going to be super important for the Dallas Cowboys. The evolution of Brian Schottenheimer's offense is going to be super important because I got a funny feeling that we will not have the same offense in 2026 that we did in 2025. But this team is tasked to have to win in spite of, Cowboys Nation. It has to win in spite of its ownership, and I don't foresee that changing in 2026. It would cause for Jerry Jones to admit that he was wrong and allow others to get us to where we need to be, not just Jerry. It would take Jerry letting go of the wheel and allowing Brian Schottenheimer to start driving this bus. Just like it should be, Cowboys Nation. But there were so many nuggets in this interview, Cowboys Nation. The fact that Stephen Jones really wants to re-sign Javonte Williams. Honestly, if they re-sign Javonte Williams, don't expect the Dallas Cowboys to try and upgrade the running back position. They went with 4 running backs last year, and the 4 in 2026 will be Javonte Williams, Jadon Blue, Phil Maffa, and Hunter Lipke. I've gone on record to say that the Dallas Cowboys will pick up E.J. Smith, the running back from Texas A&M, either in the 7th round or as a UDFA for the Dallas Cowboys practice squad. Point being, don't expect the Dallas Cowboys to spend any type of top draft capital on a running back this year. All available resources need to be used to help the defense get better. And they spoke about re-signing Jadeveon Clowney, and I completely agree with it. I want them to resign Jadeveon Clowney as well. Personally, my edge rushers would look like this, Cowboys Nation. Jadeveon Clowney, James Houston, Donovan Ezaraku, Sam Williams. Yes, Sam Williams. And one of those first-round draft picks I would spend on an edge. Each one of these guys should be affordable for Jerry and Stephen Jones to retain and still keep them as a Dallas Cowboy. But Angry Cowboys fans, I'll continue to refer to this interview because I feel like there are more hidden answers to a lot of the questions that the fans have, Cowboys Nation. If I did a video on it, it would be about 2 hours long, so I don't want to keep you guys here that long. But until then, this has been your man, the Angry Cowboys fan. Cowboys Nation, what do you see happening during this offseason? Do y'all see Jerry and Stephen Jones doing more than before? Y'all know how we do. We always talk about it in the comment section. If you're digging this content and you want to help the channel reach its current goal of 20,000 subscribers, drop a like on this video. Share this content with anybody that you know is a Dallas Cowboys fan. And if you're on your mobile device, make sure you hype this video. Doing so will almost guarantee that Cowboys fans will come over to the Angry Cowboys fan, will become Angry Cowboys fans themselves, and want to root on our Dallas Cowboys from now until eternity. And if you are DC for life and you see the front office moving in different ways that they have been before, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell to be notified whenever I go live, release a video, podcast episode, or film breakdowns. And you can catch the Madden 26 and College Football 26 gameplay on my new channel, the Angry Cowboys Fan Gaming Channel. I will put the link to that in the description. But my job here isn't to get your hopes up and to tell you what you want to hear, Cowboys Nation. My job is to give you my raw and uncut opinion and continue to give you the best content that I possibly can give you. So let's go into this offseason wanting to win a Super Bowl this upcoming year. The NFL's in the middle of a shakeup, Cowboys Nation. Let's be one of those teams that remain in the thick of things for years to come. But this has been your man, the Angry Cowboys fan, and I'm out. Dang, Angry Cowboys fan, you done made it through the entire video. But if you want more content, you can definitely go to this video right here. Or if you want the latest episode of the Angry Cowboys Fan Podcast, you can go right here. But whatever you do, like, share, and subscribe to the channel, but remain DC for life.